Hey guys, welcome back to episode 5 of the Celica project. So last time we were able to mount our engine and transmission, which was super exciting. There was a couple other things I need to figure out, but I'll go over them in the beginning of this episode. Other than that, since then, I've been able to work on research for the wiring, the radiator, as well as the belt drive I want to use. So I'll both be going over that and also showing you how I kind of implement all of those. But other than that, I want to take another look at the fuel hanger because there's a couple things I still need to figure out with that. So without further ado, let's get into it. So here's the view of our engine inside of our car since last time. So again, I used the excessive A86 to 1UZ mounts. Although, as you can see, the bolt there is all of the way maxed out. So what ended up happening is I mounted the engine and I didn't have actually enough clearance for those bolts. So I took a die grinder and I extended those slots inside of the mount just by maybe like 2 or 3 more millimeters, and then I was able to slide those bolts in. And now they sit on the A86 cross member, and that is how the engine is mounted. And again, on the transmission side, you kind of want to mount the transmission one hole back. That's just where the kind of transmission sits in order to have the shifter in the correct position. Also, since last time, I went ahead and removed both the tensioner, the idler, as well as the water pump. So the only pulleys that we'll be having on the engine is going to be the crank and the alternator. So what I saw online is there's a couple people who sell these tensioners that kind of go right here and tension a belt around these two. Unfortunately, they were like $200 and I didn't really want to spend that money. So what I ended up looking up is other people would take a Land Rover tension belt and they wrap it around here. And the only thing that's wrong with those is that they're not really great for multiple pulleys, as well as they're not really great to install. They kind of suck. But since we're only installing it on 2 of these, I hope that I'll get lucky. And it seems like it works for a lot of miles for other people. So it should work for this situation. It'll just be kind of a pain to install, and we'll get to that. So this is a Land Rover stretch belt. And so again, we're just gonna use the alternator and crank pulley, and hopefully this stretch belt will go over those two. And here's the belt installed. There's good tension on it, so I think this should be good to go, and that'll complete the accessory belt. I want to drill a new hole for the wiring loom for the 1UZ. So basically this hole is for the AC, and a lot of people use this, but eventually I think want to redo the AC. So this spot right here has a pretty flat surface. So what I ended up doing is I took this flange on the 1UZ harness, and then I made a cardboard template like this, and I kind of lined it up right here, and that's where I drilled my hole. So that's where the harness will go through, hopefully, and then I'll put some bolts through here. That should be good to go for the wiring loom. So on the inside, this is where the wiring loom goes through, and right here is usually a HVAC switcher, I guess, for outside air versus inside air. So hopefully I can loop it either down through this. There's a tiny little gap, or I can bring the wiring harness up and into the glove box area, and that's kind of planning. I guess that's up and coming, and I'll let you know where I'm putting the ECU. So I taped up the wiring loom a little bit, and then I threw it through the firewall, and this is kind of what it looks like now. So the other big thing I did since last time is I went ahead and bought a radiator. So from what I saw online, people usually use like a Griffin radiator or an RX-7 radiator. The problem with that is that they had a radiator cap built into the radiator, and then there's not that much room to mount the radiator in the original position, so you have to move it forward. And basically, it would have this cross member sitting above a radiator cap. And I thought that looked really ugly, first of all, and second of all, not very serviceable. So I basically did a ton of research on a bunch of different radiators, went on eBay and checked like all of the sizes, and Porsche 944 radiator just happens to fit perfectly nice inside of that slot. So it'll sit a little bit more forward than the original radiator, but it fits perfectly. The radiator will be big enough to basically cool the engine. And also it has the hose points, or I guess the inlet and outlet for the 2 points in the correct spot for the 1UZ, so I can kind of reuse the hoses. So basically a win on a bunch of fronts. There is one extra port that I have to close off, but that should not be a big deal. And also has all of the ports for the expansion tank, as well as a place for a sensor, or I guess the fan switch, which will kind of fit all of our needs. So that's what I ended up going with. I bought a set that comes with a shroud and radiator fan as well. So hopefully this combined should be enough to kind of figure out all of our cooling solutions. I did have to cut a couple holes in the front of the car, just around kind of where the inlet and outlets are, but overall it fits really good where I want it to, and all I have to do is figure out the mounting for it now. Hey guys, so it's been a couple of days since the last video, and that's because I've been working on the fuel pump and I just finished it, so I'll just go over kind of what I did for the whole process. So here is our old fuel hanger from the Celica. The problem with this one was that they had 1/4-inch fittings instead of the 5/16 we upgraded to. So we also could not really fit the big LS400 pump into this. So we had to basically redesign this from the ground up. And as you can see, I went through absolutely a ton of iterations trying to get this thing right, trying to get the holes in the correct place, trying to move around this is the fuel level hanger, I guess, bracket, trying to get all of this to fit inside of the gasket. And basically what I settled on was this design, here. So I had the 3D printed, and this makes sure that it has some electrical bulkheads that will fit, as well as the 2 sender and return lines, holes in the right place, so that everything will fit in to the car. And so here is the final result. I ordered this from Send, and then I welded it up, and then I also zinc plated it, and I'll show a clip of that here. But basically it was a ton of experimentation and not really worth filming, but overall I think it turned out really great. On the hanger part, I remanufactured the fuel level sensor with an MR2 sensor, I believe. I'll make a forum post about that most likely. But overall, here's the LS400 pump. It fits really well, and this barely fits into the original place where the old Celica hanger goes. So this should all link up to our new fuel lines, and then we have bulkheads for three things that we need. So this looks really good overall, and I'm really excited to put this in now. So here's our fuel hanger installed inside of the car. So as you can see, bolted right in where we're supposed to go. We have our AN lines for our fuel sender and return. And then all I have to do for the wiring is adapt this 3-wire connector to adapt to our 3 leads on our hanger. So this basically is the end of all of the fuel system, from the very back all the way to the very front with these 2 lines.